Well, thanks, Arshad, and I really want to thank the Council for bringing us together to have this conversation today. I think the Iranian strategy is quite clear, that they use proxies both to test the will of the United States and the broader international community to apply pressure to Iran. But they also, I think, use those proxies to send a signal of intent, which has been very clear since 1979. The Islamic Republic would like to see the United States, and particularly its military presence, out of the Middle East entirely. And so they sense a moment of opportunity. And I think that they turned up the heat, which of course has been, on and off over the course of the past 2 years in particular, since the Biden administration took office, as a way to see exactly how much steel is in the spine of this government. They saw the U.S. moving battle carrier groups into the Mediterranean and then into the Persian Gulf. And I think that they wanted to send a signal that, your blood is on the line too. They do have control over these militias. We know this, and the U.S. government knows this, and there's been direct communications to the Iranians to encourage them to turn down the heat.
Ellie, do you concur with Suzanne's analysis, both that Iran's, the Islamic Republic's intentions have not changed since '79, they want the United States out? If that's the case, why aren't they doing more? And if it is calibrated, what is your view of the intent of the calibration?
I agree generally. I would just add a few points to it. One is that this entire Iran's role in this is part of a longer shadow war that it's been having with Israel. And I would say that actually they began escalating pressure for a strategy of combating Israel, particularly after the killing of their nuclear scientists in Iran, and particularly the way that the Israelis bragged about it, tried to humiliate Iran. There were then series of industrial accidents, attacks on drones and centrifuge locations, and so I don't want to call it necessarily payback, but it's a strategy I think Iran always has had in this combating in Israel, that you have to keep Israel busy on its borders, because if it's not busy on its own borders, it's busy on our borders, and so I would say it was a strategy of trying to revive the Palestinian issue, try to turn the tables on the way Israel felt confident in the region. So I think the Iranians are also trying to sort of send their own deterrence and warning shots at the U.S. The intent, I don't think right now, is to kill the Americans, but to say that if you go beyond the point, if you actually try to interdict our sale of oil, if you basically go back on whatever the understanding was in Oman, that then there's going to be consequences, and it's kind of like a game of chicken. Yes, you can get into a war, but is that what you really want? So it's a warning, I think, directly at the United States. And then thirdly, I would say that these attacks are also designed to sort of take advantage of this moment for both Hezbollah and Iran, that the Arab world was caught on the verge of recognizing Israel, despite the Palestinian issue, that that ultimately there is a lot of sympathy for the Palestinians on the street, and so they are trying to do enough to show that they are in the fight, and but I don't think, as Suzanne said, that their intent right now is go to war, but the danger of it, as Suzanne said, is that there's always going to be one attack that goes awry, and then it can get out of control.
The problem is, and I lived in Beirut in 1982, when the Marines came, that they came as peacemakers and they ended up being forced to leave, that they offer a whole new set of targets. And I think the Iranians have been very clever, as they always are. They surprise us, and rather than take on the United States or get directly involved in Gaza or a higher profile in the Gaza war, it's gone after Americans who are based in Syria and Iraq on a whole different issue. I worry a lot about how we're thinking kind of in Western terms and the kind of traditional battle lines. Every war Israel has fought since 1973 has been an unconventional war. And that's where I think, we need to remember the dangers of unconventional war playing out in other ways. That's the game the Iranians are playing. We're playing trying to game this by a conventional war. And I think this idea that Israel can defeat, I put in quotation marks, Hamas as it's structured now, I think it can't kill the idea.
We're in a different era. We're not going to be able to contain Iran through a nuclear deal or any other kind of diplomacy. And so there's just been, I think, everything that I've heard is that the military to military relationship has been very good and very effective. But the key capitals in the Gulf have also calculated that they need to have some kind of a relationship with Iran.
آنچه در مورد ما میگویند